Hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. I am doing a little book review today of some books that I've been recently reading, and I don't have any of the physical copies with me because I borrowed some from friends and one of them was from the library. And I have said in my past video that I was gonna be better at filming like a day or two after I've read it. But I have not kept that promise yet. But I do have this beautiful little journal. This is where I write my book reviews, and I just wanted to share it because I think it's beautiful. So this is like the Sleeping Beauty copy from the movie, like when the movie first starts. It even when you open it, look, it has like the first. So here are some of the first few pages that are shown in the movie. See? And then the edges are even like gold, which I think is awesome. And just when you write, this is what the blank pages look like. It has Aurora, then the S and the B for Sleeping Beauty. And yeah, it has this little tassel so you can know where you left off. Okay, so the first book I'm going to talk about is They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. And this one I borrowed from one of my friends. And I mean, it's been a while since I read this. This is like January, I think. Maybe before January. But my overall rating was a 3.5 out of 5 stars. And I did relate to one of the characters. It was Mateo, because he's someone who's very afraid to take risks. I would say a bit of an overthinker and like afraid of change. And that resonates with me. It's something that I try to battle all the time. And also, well, if you don't know about this book, it has to do with it takes place in a world where everyone knows the day that they're gonna die. They get a phone call, like the morning of, and they just are told that this is their last day to make amends with anybody they need to do that for their last day. And it got me thinking, if I ever lived in a world like this, I would not want to know the day I would die, because I feel like that would just make me take everything for granted. I very much prefer like the world I do live in now, not knowing when it'll happen, which I feel like only encourages me to kind of live every day like if it were my last, and like actually be honest with the people in my life and just try not to be afraid and be vulnerable and take chances and all that. Let me see, what else did I have written down? Oh yeah, I also had wrote that it was an easy read. The vocabulary was very accessible. I think that has to do with it being a YA novel, for sure. But it did feel a bit long for me, the book. I don't know. I feel like a sign of it was that I maybe like within like the middle of it, a little bit after, I don't remember, but I was like, when are they gonna die? I was like, is it gonna be 11:59 p.m.? I know that sounds kind of rude. But trust me, at the end of the book, I did not want them to die. When I was like fully invested, because at first when I started reading the book, I was very interested, I was like, oh, this is like such an interesting topic. And I liked how it switches back and forth from like the two main characters' perspectives, and you also get to hear from other voices as well. But I don't know, it felt a bit long. I felt invested until like Mateo and Rufus had like, said their feelings for each other, which I feel like maybe that shows that I'm not a fan of like the slow burn or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, but the first thing that I wrote down here was once I hit page 4, I had no idea the ages of the characters going into it. I just knew like the premise, like two people finding out that they're gonna die and then joining the app, My Last Friend, I believe, and meeting each other through there and spending their last day together. And that was all I knew. And obviously the title, they both die at the end. And apparently I was shocked to find out that our main character, Mateo, is 18 years old. And I put, that sucks. He is so young and going to die, which I think is only going to make it more sad. Yeah, and our other character, Rufus, is actually 17. So they're both very young, and yeah, I don't know, I feel like whenever it's a death with a young person, it's always very heartbreaking because you think of like all the things that they could have done in life. But, well, that's Mateo's whole goal, to go out with a bang, to live life to the fullest, do everything he was too afraid to do before. And I think, yeah, this book, if anything, I would say encourages to really get a handle on your life, to try not to be too afraid of trying new things or taking control, and to really appreciate what you already have in your life. At least that's what I got from it. But yeah, I mean, I think I would recommend this to pretty much anyone. I mean, if they're looking for something to read, I think it's a very interesting story. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and obviously with any kind of book, look up trigger warnings before picking it up. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed reading it. Yeah, I don't know. Alright, so for favorite quotes, well, I have some written down, but here's one. Later on in the book, I'll just read the quote. There has to be more to life than imagining a future for yourself. I can't just wish for the future. I have to take risk to create it. Mateo is the one that had said this line, and I wrote that this quote stood out to me because I have spent most of my life daydreaming and not enough action. And yeah, I mean, I feel like nowadays I don't daydream as much as I used to, because I know as a teenager, wow, daydreamed a lot. Yeah, but yeah, it's important to start something, get the ball rolling, all that. Let me see if there's any other quotes. This is a quote that stood out to me. Rufus is the one speaking, and this is a bit of a spoiler also, but I'm gonna go a bit more into the quote. It's just a little spoiler, I would say, but if you want, you can skip ahead. I'll try to put a little time frame there for you to see where to skip. Okay. I keep my photos in black and white because my life lost color after they died. And you're living your life, but not forgetting theirs? Mateo asked. Exactly. That's the end of the quote. And I wrote, this is a moment in the book where Rufus first shares a vulnerable part of his life. The guilt he felt for enjoying his time at the foster home because he was making new friends 3 or 4 days after his family died. And Malcolm captured this moment of vulnerability. Since then, Rufus started his Instagram account. And, well, yeah, this quote really stood out to me. And it made me realize that I really love sayings or quotes that have to do with color. And I feel like this could be because some colors have pretty universal meaning, or sometimes colors just mean something to you because of certain experiences you have had in your life. But I don't know, I feel like it's hard to not have a meaning behind a color, have a color make you feel a certain way. But yeah, and it also made me think of 2 other instances that I had really had a quote like that like stand out to me that had to do with colors. And one of those moments was Halsey's song called Colors. I even wrote down the quote. So yeah, her song says, "You were red and you liked me 'cause I was blue, but you touched me and suddenly I was a lilac sky, and you decided purple just wasn't for you." And then also another instance is from the book A Man Called Avo, and it's the moment I'm talking about is when the little girl has done a drawing of Avo in color, and the mom tells him, "Oh yeah, she always colors you in color, only you." And I just think that's so cute because it shows how like Avo is one of like her favorite people. Like she finds him so fascinating, and everybody else she just doesn't like black and white. But yeah, and yeah, I really like that moment, the whole Instagram thing, how Mateo convinces Rufus to add color to it on his last day. It's nice. Okay. Okay, so another book that I read is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and this so far is my favorite book this year. I know this year has like just started, but right now it's up there. I gave it a 4.7 out of 5 stars, and something I really like enjoyed about this book is the style of writing that it's told through interviews, and I really like enjoy hearing from different perspectives, and I found it very funny. It would make me giggle whenever somebody would make a statement and then it cuts to another person from the band like completely disregarding it, saying like that never happened, that's not true. I don't know, I just like those moments. And if you don't know about this story, they've also made an Amazon Prime show of Daisy Jones and the Six, and I've seen some of it. I haven't finished it, but I for sure love the book way more. Something that's really nice about the show is that you get to hear the songs, and I think that the actors did a spectacular job with their performances. And yeah, Billy and Daisy do sound great together, like it is said in the book. And well, yeah, as I was saying, if you don't know what the story is about, it's a fiction novel about a band that is like formed in the 1960s, 1970s, and their rise to stardom, and them making a killer album, like an album that everybody loves. It's like a masterpiece, but there's so much drama behind that, like some of the band members like not getting along with each other. And this book made me realize that I really do love drama in my books, I would say. And something that the author did really good. I mean, every time I would pick it up, I was like invested. It would only take me like a few couple of words or a sentence or two, and I was fully in the world again. And that was really cool. Like I don't get that with a lot of books that I read. But yeah, there was also just like a few times that I felt like a little bored, kind of considered like skipping a few lines or something, but I would like literally read one sentence and I was like, I'm not gonna skip anything, and I didn't. But yeah, and I mean, for sure, if you think about reading this, you know, look up any trigger warnings or anything of that to see if like you feel okay reading through it. For sure this book does deal with like addiction. Yeah. And also I wrote here about my thoughts about the book. I wrote that the first character that like I felt intrigued by was Daisy. Or when I first started reading the book, I was like, oh my god, I freaking love Daisy. But by the end of it, I would say Camilla was the character that I was more invested and I wanted to hear from and I cared about. And a little bit of a spoiler. Well, yes, this is a big spoiler because I'm talking about the ending of it. So like skip ahead a little bit. I'll put a time frame so you know where to skip to. Alright, so I put I did love the ending with Camilla's email, that it made me giggle. And I also, I mean, I like the fact that we're not sure if Billy does reach out to Daisy. I mean, he probably does. But I was just very satisfied with the ending. Yeah. Let me know if anybody that has read it, how you felt about the ending. And I do have a quote here that I very much liked. I will read it to you. So Daisy is the one speaking. She says, "I wish someone told me that love isn't torture." And the reason why I really like this quote, well, Daisy's talking about her like current relationship. I don't want to say too much, I don't want to give spoilers, but a relationship that she has within the book. Like, she never really saw much wrong with it. She didn't think it was that big of a deal. And I feel like it just made me think about a lot of like toxic or abusive relationships, like in real life, that a lot of people don't realize that they're in them or don't want to recognize it because they either think that they don't deserve better or they just think it's very normal. It's, I'd say I got cut off a bit right there. But as I was saying, that quote made me think about like real life relationships that are either like abusive or toxic, and people don't want to see that they are in that situation, or they don't want to accept it, or they honestly just have no clue. And I think that can be due to either the person thinking that they won't find anyone better, that they don't deserve any better, that's not for them, or they've been convinced by like movies or the media that love is supposed to be hard, love is a battle. Like, I feel like that's something that probably a lot of people have heard within like movies and stuff. And you know, that whole trope of like, you know, falling for the bad boy and all that, like he's only good to me. But like, I feel like that's not really real. I believe that love is supposed to be peaceful, that when two people actually care about each other and love each other, will do everything they can to not like hurt each other, and they will want to compromise and hear each other out and correct any mistakes that they may do. And I feel like with all that would actually come bliss and not heartache or heartbreak. Yeah. But I would say, I would honestly, what is it called? I'm losing my words here. Recommend. I would recommend this book to a lot of people because I loved it. Yeah, the only reason I would say like maybe don't read it is if you think that the like trigger warnings are gonna give you like a hard time reading it, then don't put yourself through that. But if like after you see the trigger warnings and you think that you'd be okay picking it up, then I'd say definitely check it out. I don't think you'll regret it. But yeah, I mean, if anybody has read this and did not like it, comment down below and let me know the reason why. I would love to hear it from you, honestly. But yeah, I loved it. That's all I have to say about it. Okay, so those two other books that I just talked about, I borrowed from the same friend. And for this one, I had borrowed it from the library. That's why I don't have any of the physical copies with me. But this is the book, The Phantom Tollbooth by Norden Jester. Sorry if I'm butchering any words. But this is a children's book, and I wanted to pick this one up because my boyfriend had told me about it like a year and a half ago, that he had read it when he was a kid, and I don't know, it seemed like he loved it a lot, so I was like, maybe I'll pick it up one day, and I finally did. And I like the book, but I feel like if I would have read it when I was a kid, I would have absolutely loved it, and now as an adult, I just feel like, about it. But it had its fun moments, definitely, and it very much reminds me of like Alice in Wonderland, because due to the fact that it's both stories, there's a kid that is not loving life to the fullest. They're kind of like upset about something, and they get transported into this new world, and it's very absurd, and they go on adventures and meet very interesting characters that become their friends, and they learn like little life lessons. They learn how to appreciate life more and be more excited to go on adventures within their own world, and they're eventually sad to leave the world, right? And yeah, like it hits all of those beats. So I mean, I couldn't help but think about Alice in Wonderland. And one thing that did bug me about the book is certain characters will like repeat the same sentence about like 3 or 4 times, maybe more. So sometimes like I was a little over it. I mean, like it does give the character a very unique voice. And like whenever, if I'll ever hear somebody talk like that, like it'll probably make me think about this book. But I don't know, reading it, I wasn't feeling it. So sometimes when I notice that they're just like gonna say the same thing over and over, I just like skip to the bottom to like the new line. So I am guilty of doing that when I was reading it. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that also when I was reading this, I think I was in the mood for like a book that had to do more with like plot. And this book is all vibes, I would say. It's just like interacting with like certain characters. But I mean, there's like kind of a quest going on. But I don't know, it doesn't feel that strong. The like plot doesn't feel that strong. And there's not that much tension between the characters as much as like I would have liked. But yeah, I don't know if I said my overall rating already. I gave this a 3.2 out of 5 stars. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I did think it was a fun book. Definitely like an easy read. I mean, it is a children's book. And I always love to see any like illustrations on books, and this has it. It has like a good amount of drawings, and I always love that. So I did enjoy it. And I do have a quote here that I very much loved, honestly, from the book. So, I mean, a little bit of a spoiler, but it's not like that big of a spoiler, honestly. I think it's fine if you like hear this. Okay, so this has to do when our main character, Milo, he goes into like Dictionopolis, which is the land of words. And yeah, it's like the king loves words, right? He's all about that. And Milo is there in the banquet, and the king lets Milo make a speech. And Milo's like very nervous, like, oh my gosh, like this is such a special moment, right? So you can tell he's nervous. He's trying to find the right words, sound professional. And he says a lot with not saying much, because it's like he's trying to set a beginning of like being like, thank you for having me here, or something like that. And then he gets cut off. The king says, okay, that's enough. And then he lets the next person speak. And they start saying random words. They say like, for example, cherry pie, donuts, waffles, something like that. And like they're so certain about what they're saying, but it sounds so random to Milo. And this goes on and on for every guest there. And eventually, when everybody's done saying their speech, they come in with like plates, and they serve it to each guest. And on each plate is the words that they had said, their speech, and they have to eat it. And all of the other guests are super happy with what they're eating. It's super tasty to them. And Milo starts eating it, and it's not the best. And then this is what the quote is. I think that's like a good lead-in. All right. So this is Milo speaking at first. I didn't know that I was going to have to eat my words, objected Milo. Of course, everyone here does, the king grunted. You should have made a tastier speech. And I really like this part because I feel like it's an interesting way to show how it's good to think about what you're going to say before you actually say it. And it just made me think like, oh, if this was actually something that would happen in our own world, I feel like a lot of people would be more careful with the language that they would use. And it also made me think about how much like words can have an effect on other people or even yourself. It made me think of like negative and positive like self-talk. And yeah, I don't know, that was like a very interesting little moment in the book. But yeah, there's a lot of other moments like that, and I think you'll enjoy it. Yeah, I'd say I would recommend this to anybody that feels like either having like a really easy read that they don't have to think much, right? Kind of like vibes, right? All vibes book, or in the mood for something like that will spark something for like their inner child or something, or just read it with a little one if you have like a child at home, like that's your own kid or a nephew or niece or somebody, a cousin. Read it with them. I'm pretty sure it'll be a nice little bonding moment. I know I read it with my nephew and I think he loved it. Every time he saw me reading it, he'd be like, oh, read it out loud, read it out loud. I mean, he also loves books. Super cute. But yeah, I mean, I would say check this book out. Why not? But yeah, that's my little review. And I mean, if I decide that this is the last book that I am going to record for this video, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. And I mean, if you stayed here until the end of the video, thank you. I'm a little surprised, but thank you. And yeah, I mean, comment down below, let me know what you thought about any of these books if you read them or were interested before. Let me know any of your thoughts. Again, try to make them spoiler free, or if you think it is a bit of a spoiler, you go just put spoiler warning and then do the rest of your comment for like anybody reading the comments, you know. But yeah, and if you have any book recommendations, please give them to me. I love to hear them always. But yeah, thank you and have a great day or night or both.